Hey CrossFit Palm Beach fam, this is Coach Andrew, and today I want to share with you guys some quick tips for setting better New Year's resolutions. Okay, so it's January 1st, 2020 as I'm recording this, and I'm starting to see the typical New Year's resolutions pop up on social media and conversations that I'm having with people inside and outside the gym. And I'm actually a huge fan of resolutions, even though I realize that a lot of them do in fact fail for a lot of people. I don't see it as a negative thing like a lot of people do. I see it as a huge positive. Even though, again, a large percentage of people fail, there is still a nice percentage of people that do succeed with their resolutions. So I am a big fan of it, and I think that anytime that you have this catalyst for change in your life, you're fed up of eating like crap, feeling like crap, and you're ready to take things in a new direction, I think that's a positive. Now, when we talk about that, actually Tony Robbins breaks this down in terms of state, strategy, and story. So if you look at like the state, New Year's is a great time that we're in this different state, we're in this motivated state, we're ready for change. So I think that's a positive, because in order for change to happen, we need this catalyst and we need this desire to want to change. So I see that as a positive. Now, how can we improve our strategy and our story to the point that this change actually does in fact happen and it lasts? We create lasting change. So that's what I'm gonna give you guys some quick tips on today is how can we kind of nail that down. So first things first is that where I think people make this mistake with setting New Year's resolutions is that they're too focused on where they're going instead of looking back at the past. And I don't mean dwelling on the past and saying, oh my God, I was so bad these last few months, or I was so bad these last couple weeks. But what I mean by that is, have you set this same resolution in the past? Did you say the same thing last January 1st? Have you been saying the same thing for the last 10 years every time January 1st comes around? We need to take a realistic look at, okay, have I taken this approach before, and was it successful or not? And if it wasn't, how can we change our mindset, our goal, our strategy this time around so we can be successful? Rather than doing the same thing and saying, well, I'm just gonna actually stick to it this time, let's actually look at it from the standpoint that, no, if it didn't work before, something was probably wrong, and I'm gonna do something different this time around. The other piece of that is, if you just had a couple bad weeks, don't beat yourself up for it. If you had 11 and a half good months, but you had a couple bad weeks and you're just feeling off track, then for you, you just might need to get back on track. It's kind of a different story of, okay, have I actually been successful over the past year and I had some bad, a bad couple weeks in this area, or was I really in fact unsuccessful in this area, and maybe I've never been successful in this area, and I really need to change my mindset and my approach moving forward. The second big mistake that people make is not having a clear idea of what they're trying to accomplish. So what we commonly hear with some type of New Year's resolution is this idea of more or less, okay? So I wanna eat more vegetables, I wanna eat more protein, I wanna go to the gym more, okay? I wanna start exercising more, I wanna start meditating more, okay? More is very vague. Okay, and when you have something like weight loss, if you're saying, well, I just want to lose some weight, it doesn't give you any clear direction of where you're trying to go and what you're trying to accomplish, okay? And there's no way to measure that, right? What is more, okay? When you're eating poorly during the holiday season and you finally fill up a plate with some lean protein and vegetables, yes, that becomes very tangible. I'm eating more vegetables than I was before. But once we get into the thick of the year, or even just a couple weeks in, what is more? How are you measuring that against the previous amount? And where is the actual end outcome that you're trying to get to? This is the big problem that I have with just a pure weight loss goal, is it says nothing about what you're trying to get out of that goal, because a number on the scale is really rewarding in a very finite period of time. For some people, it's not even rewarding at all. They think it's going to be rewarding, and then they get there and it's not rewarding at all. So what is the real outcome that we're trying to get to? Let's begin with the end in mind, okay? So what happens once we lose the weight? Do we want to have more energy? Do we want to feel confident with our shirt off? Do we want to feel like we can walk into any type of clothing store and try something on and feel great about it? Like, what is the actual outcome we're trying to achieve? And let's go beyond just the surface level stuff, because the weight loss and these resolutions geared towards just more or less are very surface level things that really tell us nothing about what we're really trying to get after. And one book that I read recently that really opened my eyes up to this is a book called The Infinite Game. Tony mentioned it in his top books from 2019, and it's a really cool book because it shows you that things like your nutrition and your lifestyle, your health as a whole, or your financial success, or your family success, these things are an infinite game, okay? There's nothing that we can do where we win in a finite period of time and then we get to stop playing the game, okay? It's not like sports where it's like, okay, you have a defined season or you have a defined game and you can get a win or you can get a championship trophy at the end of the year and it's done, okay? With your health or with your family, it's something that there is no clear end in sight, okay? There is no game that you can win once and be done with it, okay? I heard another example recently on, I think it was on Ed Milet's podcast or maybe on his Instagram page, and he said he was teaching his daughter how to ride her bike, and she would get going on the bike and then she would stop pedaling and fall. She would get going on the bike, she'd stop pedaling and she'd fall. And then he pulled her aside and he told her, hey honey, you have to keep pedaling. Like, once you get momentum going, that doesn't mean you get to stop. You actually have to keep pedaling to keep it going. And he saw that as just the perfect metaphor for life, which I agree with, is like in business, in health, in your family, you can't stop pedaling. You always have to keep pedaling. So we want to be thinking about our goals, not necessarily from this like weight loss number that we want to achieve, but from a long-term process of what do we want life to look like even once we achieve that goal. And if we can figure out what that end result is, we can start building foundational habits now to work ourselves towards that, okay? We don't have to be there necessarily tomorrow, but we can start to implement some habits that are eventually gonna get us to that point. And then once we do get there, that stuff's much more likely to stick because we knew what we were trying to achieve in the first place. And we weren't just trying to achieve some arbitrary number on the scale or some arbitrary number on our bank accounts. So when you have this infinite game in mind, what happens is you begin to become a lot more process focused as opposed to outcome focused. It's great to have these big outcomes that you want to achieve, and I do believe that you need to have some semblance of an idea of where you want to go with this. But I think even more importantly is figuring out what is the process that I'm excited to do every single day. What is the process that I'm willing to do for the rest of my life? And that becomes a completely different mindset than just wanting the outcome, because you need to want the struggle that's going to come with that outcome as well. The next big mistake that I see people make is having no accountability or trying to have accountability from someone who hasn't already been successful in that particular area, okay? So good example again with the weight loss theme is that, hey, I haven't been going to the gym regularly. I want to get an accountability buddy to hold me accountable to getting my 15 classes every single month to get me into the Committed Club. Well, I think that's a great idea. You know, I think it's a better step than what most people make, which is no accountability buddy at all, or no outside accountability, making sure that they get their 15 classes every month. But to take this even further, we need to find an accountability buddy or a coach or a mentor of someone who's already done that and been successful with it. So we just posted our list of everybody that's been in the Committed Club for the entire year last year. We have people that have been in the Committed Club every single year for the 3 years we've been doing it. That's a much better accountability buddy to hold you accountable to getting into the Committed Club rather than that person who's never been successful in that area. Okay, and that doesn't mean you can't pull that person with you, but ultimately you both, or all three of you, however big your group is, you guys all need an accountability coach or a mentor or someone that's already been successful in that area. Because what's going to happen is once life gets tough or once those struggles get to show up, that accountability buddy is going to start to have those same justifications or those same outs that you've had in your life, and you guys are both going to fall off the rail at the same time. So when you have that coach or you have that person that's already been through obstacles and knows how to break through, that's going to be a much better guide for you when you do hit those inevitable struggles in your life. So an example for me is I actually pay one of our coaches, Coach Austin, to provide me with what we call bulletproof programming to help with injury prevention that I do before and after classes that I take at the gym. And I've had shoulder injuries recently. I've had back injuries that I've dealt with for years, have herniated discs that, from what I know from doctors, that will never really fully heal. It's always something that I'm gonna have to kind of manage and work around. And that stuff, the exercises that I'm doing before and after class, is stuff that I could easily program for myself. You know, as a coach, I've been doing this long enough that I could easily program it. But I'm not paying for necessarily the coaching through Austin. I'm really paying for that accountability and direction through him. And I know that I'm much more likely to be here 15 or 20 minutes before class because I know I have to go into the True Coach app that we use and submit my results to Austin. And having that there has made a big difference in my follow through of whether or not I'm gonna do the stuff that I need to do to stay healthy for my shoulder and for my back. And it's a cost, it's something that I pay for, but ultimately it becomes less expensive than what I would have to pay for a chiropractor or a physical therapist on a regular basis, or the expense of being out of commission, which is, you know, hard to put a tangible value on that, but really something that I don't want to deal with at all. So think about, you know, taking that accountability to a next level. I think it's a huge place that a lot of people overlook as they're setting their resolutions. The next thing that we can throw into the mix to really make sure that we follow through with our resolutions is stakes, okay? So stakes is something that if we fall off track or if we do really well, we can either earn our way to something or we can prevent ourselves from losing something if we do go off track. So an example of this is something that my wife Nikki and I have done in the past is we've done nutrition challenges and habits challenges where we'll track each day our follow through in defined areas. And we usually have different things. So for me, it might be something like trying to hit my sleep in a given night. It might be eating a certain amount of vegetables, eating a certain amount of meals with vegetables in them. It could be a bunch of different things, but you could have like 5 different categories that we each have that we track every day. And the person who gets the most check marks at the end of 30 days will either win a prize or avoid losing a prize, okay? So for us, we would wager a pair of NOBULL shoes because it's something that we both like, and the person that has the most check marks at the end of 30 days would get a pair of NOBULLs of their choice at the end of that month. Okay, you could also do it more for a loss aversion standpoint. So if you kind of study the psychology aspect of it, people are actually more apt to not lose something than they are to gain something. So you could add an element of loss where the opposite person has to pay for those NOBULL shoes, or the other person, the losing person, has to give up something of value to them. So that way, not only is there this carrot that you're working towards, but there's this fear of loss that you're trying to avoid as well. And those stakes can really make a big difference when times get tough. It can also just keep things top of mind. Sometimes I don't want to say we forget about our goals, but they aren't as top of mind as they should be. So you go to a party or you're just not as mindful throughout your day-to-day life, and you end up going off track in little ways. Whereas you have these stakes, it really adds another layer to it where you're never going to forget about being accountable to that goal you set for yourself. And then one of the last things I want to talk to you guys about is the mindset piece. And when it relates to mindset, the thing that I think about is how can we rig the game in our favor where we win even if we lose, okay? So the example for me is like with this episode that I'm doing right now, this show that I'm doing, one of my goals for 2020 is to shoot a mini video or podcast for you guys every single week for CrossFit Palm Beach to give value, talk about training, exercise, nutrition, mindset, all these different things that I feel like I can give value to our members to help them live a better life and a healthier, more fulfilling life. And one of my goals, the way that I'm approaching this is rather than saying, oh, I want to impact 500 people or I want to get 50 new members by the end of the year, is I'm really just thinking about I want to record an episode every week for a year, okay? And that's part of the win. So if I can follow through with that, you know, and even if I miss a few weeks, if I get 48 weeks out of 52, I'm gonna be really happy with that. But ultimately, I would love to get 52 out of 52 weeks where I'm shooting some kind of video for you guys, all right? So that to me is success. It relies on no one else. It's completely within my control to shoot these videos, and it's something that I can be successful with. Okay, and then the typical way that most people would do it, like I said, is they're going to be looking at, well, how many people are watching these videos? How many listeners do we get? How many new members have we gotten from these videos? And to me, those objective measures of success are really not important to me at all. Those are going to become icing on the cake, and I'm going to set up the game for me to win even if none of those things happen. So for me, if I can impact even just 1 or 2 people on a deep level, if someone comes up to me and says, wow, I got a lot of value out of this video, I'm doing this, this, and this now, to me, that is a way for me to win the game, even if I, lose in the grand scheme of it, okay? Even if the results aren't there in terms of new members and retention and all that stuff. So think about that in terms of your own weight loss. How can you, even if you don't lose the weight, okay, let's say at the end of the year you don't lose any weight at all, but you still have found positive results or something positive about what you've done, even if you, in theory, lose. And this mindset shift actually does a couple things for you. Number one, it actually will increase your chances of actually fulfilling the goal that you ultimately want to achieve. But it's going to allow you to be much more patient on your path to that goal, because results take time and you have to allow yourself to kind of build these foundational habits. So you might get to the end of the year and maybe, just lose a couple pounds, but you're on the path. You have momentum building and there's no end in sight for you, right? You're playing this infinite game, so it's only a matter of time before you reach the goal. The second thing is it's going to open you up to all the other side benefits that come with achieving this goal, right? We've already talked about with weight loss, it's not about weight loss, it's about the energy and feeling confident and having the mental clarity and being able to play with your kids and do all these great things. Well, when you think about this idea of, well, how can I win even if I ultimately lose, then it opens you up to see all those things. Because otherwise we stay very closed-minded. We might even lose the weight, but we're still not happy because we haven't opened ourselves up to the possibility that this is about a whole lot more than just weight loss, okay? So ask yourself that question, journal on that question is, what is my goal? But then even if I don't achieve that exact goal, how can I still define success for myself or be successful because of what I followed through with in terms of my actions and the processes? So I want to wrap this up. I know I've shared some examples, but I really want to break down some key examples here. So let's say your goal, again, is weight loss. We're sticking with this theme, okay? There's 2 main components to the weight loss side that we're going to focus on. Number 1 is the exercise and getting in the gym. Number 2 is the nutrition and our eating habits. So a great sort of process-related exercise goal would be, okay, I want to make the Committed Club 15 visits, 15 classes a month for the entire 2020 year, okay? That's a great goal. It's something that you're not biting off more than you can chew. It's a great minimum goal where you're going to see awesome results, and it's very realistic based on what we've seen, where we have close to 100 people making that Committed Club for a year. It's a realistic goal for you to achieve that. Then on the nutrition side, maybe your goal looks more like, okay, I want to eat lean protein and veggies, or what we call kind of like the plate method. I want to eat the plate method 14 times a week. So at least twice a day for 7 days a week, I want to get 14 meals that follow lean protein and veggies or this plate method, okay? And that's something that you can track, right? You can track that daily, and it gives you a little leeway in there as well, whereas if you on Monday and Tuesday, if you got 3 of those meals each day, maybe on the weekend you go off track and you only get 1, all right? And you can still hit your 14 meals for the week. Okay, so going back to that Committed Club example, how do we get even more specific with this, okay? 15 visits in a month, that is about 4 classes in a week, right? There's at least 4 weeks in a month. Some months have more, but we know we're gonna get at least 4. So if we can get our 4 classes in a week, we're on track for the Committed Club, okay? What 4 days? All right, let's break this down and say, okay, I'm gonna come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Those are gonna be my 4 days. Every single week, those are my non-negotiables. I can do more, but I'm not gonna miss those days, okay? Next step is, okay, every Sunday, I'm gonna set a calendar reminder for me to go into Zen Planner and schedule those classes, okay? So those classes are not only gonna be in my own digital calendar, physical calendar that I use, but those classes are gonna be pre-reserved, and I'm not gonna let myself cancel them unless it's an emergency, okay? Now let's create a backup plan. Let's take it even a step further, okay? If I end up missing one of my days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Saturday, Sunday is gonna be my backup plan. I've already talked to my spouse, I've already talked to a babysitter, I've already talked to whoever I need to talk to figure out who they're going to cover, so I can be able to go into Sunday to make up that day if I miss one of my 4 days during the week. Okay? And then an additional backup plan is, because we're doing 4 days in a week, we actually could have 1 week out of every 4 where we only get 3 classes in that week and we still hit our 15 classes for the month. Okay, so you can see how we've taken a goal of just losing weight and really broken down the process and built in some systems to make sure that this is going to happen. Okay, then with the meal tracking side, okay, you can do that digitally, you can do that physically. You can have a physical chart that you tape to your bathroom mirror that every time you have a meal with protein and veggies, you're either going into your phone or you're checking a box on your bathroom mirror, okay? And that's where you will want to add that additional step of the accountability and the stakes in to both of these things to make sure that there's some follow through. Who are you going to report those meals to each week? Who's going to keep you accountable? Okay, so hopefully this episode really gave you guys some specific ways to break this down. There's probably 100 more things I could touch on, but I wanted you guys to have some really tactical things to rewrite your resolutions and break down some specific processes to help you achieve it. And looking forward to doing more of these videos in 2020. If there's any topics that you want me to touch on, feel free to email me, Andrew@CrossFitPalmBeach.com, and look forward to seeing you guys in the gym.